Hello and welcome back to Nerd Pod, where we discuss nerdy news, movies, books, comics, and much more. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. I'm Christian, and if you are here again with us today, I am so glad to have you. I'm here with my very own super friends. I have Mark. Say hi, Mark. We
Hello.
have Austin
Hello.
and Nate.
Uh,
It is Nate's first time, so we are very, very glad to have him here with us. Now, we're going to get into a little bit of news. We've had some teasers come out recently that are really exciting. We had the Venom 2 teaser. It was very short, and it just basically gave us that it was coming out in 2021, I believe, 22.
yeah.
I should know this. One
2021.
of, I thought it was 2021. And so I wanted to talk a little bit real quick about how everybody feels about seeing Carnage come into the Venom world. Are we excited? Mark, how are you feeling about it?
Yes, I'm one of the few people who I actually enjoyed the Venom movie. It wasn't great by any means, especially compared to the standard that's been set by the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Obviously, Venom's taking part in Sony's not fully connected universe, but due to the agreement, it's going to be kind of connected coming up. But no, I mean, I think that it was somewhat of a conservative movie. Like, I don't think they took a lot of risks. I think the bland villain. Really, the majority of what I liked about it was Tom Hardy and his interactions as Eddie Brock with the Venom symbiote. I thought like that was pretty much the best part of the whole movie. Is him kind of getting to know and interacting with the symbiote and kind of being more of an anti-hero than the villainous Venom that we see in the comics a lot and in the Spider-Man cartoon from the 90s. But it set up the with the very end scene with Woody Harrelson playing Cletus Cassidy. It set up the Carnage sequel, and Carnage is like a super murderous
Yeah.
villain.
He
Like
is a
fucked
villain,
up.
straight up, yes,
yeah, he's
completely.
deranged. So I think that this is going to be. I think this has a lot of potential. There are rumors, especially with this new arrangement with Disney, Marvel, and Sony, that Tom Holland's Spidey could be showing up in some capacity. We did get those same rumors for the first Venom movie, and then it didn't end up happening. But it almost seems more credible this time, especially because we already saw in the Morbius trailer Michael Keaton's Vulture show up at the end. So they already are bringing some MCU characters into these Sony films. So one stands to think you could see Tom Holland Spidey in there, and that would excite me too. It would make sense to have Venom and Spidey maybe team up to stop Carnage because he's impossible to stop. So I'm excited.
I think it would be cool too. I'm going to talk more about team ups and Spider-Man a little bit later with this topic. How do you feel, Austin?
So like I'm a lot young. So like I watched like the '90s cartoon, um, like probably from like on demand and when it was on net, like used to be on Netflix and it got taken off. And I've like rewatched it when it's been yeah. I know that's what I was just about to allude to. I've watched it like back on like Disney Plus again.
Yes.
But like I haven't seen Venom in a while, so like I'll have to rewatch it. But I was agreeing with Mark on the point where it was somewhat overrated. Like there were some people who liked it, and then there were some people who didn't like it. I was probably one of those people that was sort of in the middle on
Okay.
it. As I agreed with Mark on his points, where it was like he liked the interactions and stuff like that, and I'm excited to see Carnage because he obviously in the '90s kid show he was a lot died down because but like and then Mark to go off like a Mark's point with the like the anti-hero sort of thing. That's what like Venom has somewhat become in some of the comics. Is like there's like the anti-Venom. So like he's sort of like they're started doing that, and I feel like that's a really good approach because we've gotten a Venom before with the Topher Grace one in Spider-Man 3,
right?
Which was horrible, and I feel like they need something else.
Yeah,
so,
I love Topher Grace in that '70s show, but
it's
not.
It was bad.
It was like why?
Yes, and I like the direction they took with Venom because I feel like it found a balance between I mean, for a film of its nature related to like superheroes, I feel like it was more extreme. I mean, he bit a dude's head off. That's kind of extreme for what we're seeing. But I think they also found a good balance of making him an anti-hero. How do you feel about it, Nate?
Be honest here, I haven't watched Venom nor seen the trailer.
Oh, okay.
I don't watch many movies.
That's all right. So, have you seen any of the Spider-Man films with Tom Holland? No.
I'm just gonna say yes.
No, that's all right. We have Haley with us normally, who, she is kind of our resident less nerdy person. So that's all right. We like having that presence here to bounce thoughts off of. So Carnage, for people who might not know, is very much a true villain. He will be, I feel like they're gonna have to make this movie rated R if they're gonna have Carnage in it and have him actually be the way he's supposed to be. So it's gonna be an interesting one for sure. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about the symbiotes because I think they're kind of cool. We've seen Venom, we've seen Carnage. We know that there's a society of symbiotes, and that leads to a potential of a lot of different movies. So for my people who know of the symbiotes, do you have a favorite? We'll start over with Mark. Do you have a favorite that you would like to see be able to be in this Venom series?
Honestly, Venom is my favorite symbiote. I know that it's a bit of a cop-out answer, but Venom is the one who I've always, like, when the cartoon was out, I would always be excited for the Venom episodes. And a movie was announced, and I heard that Tom Hardy was cast. I'm like, okay, good, they're gonna get it right. So Venom is honestly my favorite symbiote. I always liked the Spider Carnage adaptation, with it being like Peter Parker overtaken by the symbiote, and like that kind of cross between a hero went completely crazy and murderous like that. I don't think we'll probably see that. It's probably too dark for what Marvel and Sony are kind of going to agree to. But if there's something besides Venom and Carnage that I would like to see, seeing Spider Carnage, like those incarnations of Spidey where the symbiote takes over him, would be pretty.
I think it'd be an interesting way to cameo Tom Holland's Spider-Man if, like, at the end, Carnage is half beat and he tries to attach to Peter Parker and he's like, oh, no, what is that? I think it'd be a nice little cameo. So, because I don't think we can go that dark either. How do you feel about it, Austin? Any favorites for the symbiotes? Austin, can you hear me?
Very good response,
Austin. Mute.
Hello, Austin.
So while we're gonna let Austin work on that, I'll talk about my favorite. So my favorite is Toxin, who is Venom's grandson. He's actually Carnage's son. It's a weird thing to think of sons with something like symbiotes, but I think Toxin is cool just because he's kind of feared by the other symbiotes. He's the 1,000th symbiote in the line, so that's supposed to make him very strong and intimidating. And he also actually is the only symbiote that Spider-Man kind of considers an ally. His first host is a police officer, and they, as in Toxin and his host, kind of befriend Peter Parker and mentor him at some different periods. So I think he's my favorite. I like anti-heroes, and he still is an anti-hero, but I like a really strong anti-hero that's going to side with the good guys. That's my kind of character. So Austin's back with us. Do you have a favorite symbiote?
My favorite symbiote is probably like Venom. I'd agree with Mark on that. Because like he's like super interesting, like the lore, even just like with Venom, because like you have the era where he's like the anti-Venom, as I was saying earlier, where he has got cancer or something, and it changes the symbiote from black and white to white and black, and I really like that storyline and stuff like that. So
that Mac Gargan at one point had like the Venoms had different hosts. Like Harry Osborn was also the host for Venom at one point. So like you see different incarnations of Venom, which makes him more interesting too.
Exactly.
Yes. So, having heard any of that, Nate, would you vote? I didn't talk too much about Toxin, but would you say Toxin or Venom? I'm putting you on the spot.
Venom.
Venom? That's all right.
Very,
I've been outvoted.
very cool, very epic guy. I don't know.
Yeah, that's all right.
Very
You
nice.
just
Very
let us
epic,
know
very
when you
nice.
watch that movie.
Nate's very convinced that he wants to watch Venom now. Like
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
can hear it in his voice. No, yeah,
Exactly.
he's pretending no. I can hear it in his voice.
Yeah, I'm just really
He's,
excited.
he's off to the side looking up where to watch Venom right now.
I
Yeah.
actually did search Netflix.
I think it's on Stars, or at least was it on for?
Who's
I
subscribed?
will take your word for it.
Looks like I'm gonna get it illegally.
That nobody heard that. That wasn't
Yeah.
said out loud.
I've never watched
that-
a movie illegal.
For the
No,
FBI
nobody
or whoever's
ever.
listening, that was a joke.
What's
Exactly.
a torrent? I've never heard of this.
He's a good Christian boy, so he doesn't watch videos online.
That's a lie.
If anybody's listened to, I believe that was on UI that Nate said he was a good Christian boy and wouldn't say the V word. So
That was you.
speaking of V word, actually, great segue over to our WandaVision news. So we've got some
Good Mark,
information.
get about Giddy.
We've got some information about characters that are supposed to be showing up in WandaVision. We have heard that Quicksilver will be in the show. It's pretty well known, I believe, that WandaVision is a space where Wanda has kind of gone through some tough times mentally, and she has started creating alternate realities. So what I'm hearing is that Quicksilver will be in one of these realities alive. That doesn't mean it's canon to our current timeline or our current reality, but it is supposed to be her brother who played Quicksilver in Age of Ultron. So I've also heard that X-Men's Quicksilver might be making an appearance. I thought that would be interesting too. Yeah. And I've heard, yes, he's going to be X-Men's Quicksilver. No, he's not. Maybe he'll play a villain. I think it would be a really cool thing to see because we are dealing with multiverses if he was X-Men's Quicksilver. And
he
we
was
got
a
a little
villain.
bit of glimpse. That would be even more interesting.
Like if he was
'Cause
like comic book
Quicksilver-
accurate.
Yes, exactly, because Quicksilver is a villain in the comic books and in the shows of X-Men. He is a villain. So with that, I'm wondering if that is a reality that we see. We see X-Men's Quicksilver, if that will be the reality where Scarlet Witch erases mutants. Because as we know, Marvel wasn't allowed to call Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver mutants. There was legal issues. They weren't allowed to call them that. And so now, from what I understand, and I'm sure you guys can help me confirm, that restriction is off of them now.
Yeah, because Disney
they
opened
have-
the checkbook to Fox.
Yes, finally, because I was waiting on that because I really like the X-Men series and
Yeah.
all the mutants and stuff. So do you guys think maybe we could see that? How do we think that Quicksilver could be brought in different ways? Nate, what do you think?
Why do you ask me? Like
You nodded earlier, so I was like,
I don't
maybe
know.
Nate's
I'm
on
just
board
nodding
with
so
this
I
one.
seem like I know stuff.
Oh, I love it. That's fun. So you can pick then who answers the question. Nate.
I'm gonna say Mark
Mark?
here because Austin is just Austin.
Oh, okay. You've been shunned temporarily, Austin. So
Oh,
Mark,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Right. So yeah. The bottom line with the acquisition of Fox by Disney, these characters are now accessible to Disney to use pretty freely. There was an embargo on the Netflix characters for up to 2 years, but the Fox characters, I believe, was only a year. So I think as of 2020, like around this point, basically, they should be able to start using those characters in their movies. So they could use the X-Men's version. Like they technically never called Pietro Maximoff Quicksilver. That's why they kind of got around to use him before, and Wanda, and they referred to them as miracles or like they were experiment. They never referred to them as mutants for that specific reason that you mentioned, Christian. So I think they might start using the term like something will happen where there's a lot more enhanced people, and maybe they start referring to them as mutants. Maybe people who are like, instead of being enhanced once they're born, they're in like
Mhm.
they're born that way, and they start referring to those specific enhanced individuals as mutants. And maybe it's Wanda who, instead of eliminating mutants like we see in the House of M storyline,
Mhm.
maybe it's the opposite. She does something and it creates mutants.
Creates it.
Like we could see like the polar opposite maybe, because in this current MCU timeline, there's no mutants to get rid of. They
Right.
they don't really exist yet. So whether it's bringing, maybe they exist in a multiverse and like through either
Crisis, like a crisis.
yeah,
They do like
Maybe,
similar to like
yeah.
a Crisis on Infinite Earths. Shout out
like
DC.
either multiverse of madness or through WandaVision. She explores the multiverse. Maybe the mutants are introduced that way, or she just, because she's so utterly powerful and keeps getting more powerful each film, maybe she finds a way to just create life like out of thin air. So
Maybe.
it's going to manifest itself one way, and I don't know if Evan Peters is going to play the X-Men like version of Quicksilver. It could be that it's a huge coincidence and he was cast for a different role, but I think that would be insanely cool because he was one of the few characters in that those awful, very mixed X-Men movies that he was actually good.
Yes, and I loved the way they did Quicksilver there.
Yeah.
The first two were good, and then just like Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix. Oh my god, I probably watched like 20 minutes of Dark Phoenix and I just turned it off.
Yeah, those were interesting movies. I like how you brought up the fact that maybe Wanda will be a way to create mutants. I know we talked, or not we didn't talk about it, but the characters talked about the huge energy surge that happened when Thanos snapped, and I've heard whisperings that maybe that's how they're going to bring mutants in, that energy surge caused mutations. But I mean, who knows? Maybe Wanda will have something to do with it too. What do you think, Austin?
I feel like she's just gonna, by like the end of season 1, she's just gonna have a full mental breakdown, and as Mark was saying, have a similar like House of M reaction, but it's gonna be more like, I feel like, a Crisis on Infinite Earth. So like, as I was saying, shout out DC, where like it brings realities in, because that's a way. I know in like the CW DC universe, that's how they just brought together like the Flash. Obviously, Arrow's done, Supergirl and stuff, and Black Lightning, and they all brought them onto one Earth. So like, I feel like they could end up doing that, and so it rewrites history, so that Professor X in the 30s was born, so he's alive in the 2010 in the current MCU timeline. There's a Wolverine, stuff like that. I feel like that's a good way to segue or bring them in.
Yeah,
I like that.
And the fact that like you have, I think her having a mental breakdown is going to be like a major component of WandaVision, because I mean, half of the show is like this 1950s sitcom where Vision and they have like this perfect TV marriage. I feel like that's probably her trying to almost envision a world where she's just living this peaceful vision, and then she's snapped back to reality. She's reminded that he's dead. She's miserable. And she just loses it.
And it could be the same with her brother, because they have shown her and her brother in trailers interacting with each other. So
exactly,
it could be like, all of her realities collapsing in on each other, and that's what causes her to snap. Because that would be a big.
Maybe because like I'm pretty sure the person who played Quicksilver in like the other movies, he's like similar age to Elizabeth Olsen. So like having them be like twins, like if you somehow do a new reality where you don't have Aaron Taylor Johnson's, and she creates a new reality where she wasn't a Hydra experiment, where she was a mutant born from Magneto, then that would be like a cool way. And like they're like twins like they are in the comic. Obviously, like they're twin mutants born from Magneto.
Right. I think all of those would be great ideas. We're just always constantly coming up with content for the big
Marvel
studios on NerdPod.
Kevin Feige just gonna listen to this, and he's like, "Damn, that's what we're doing."
Yeah, just bring him on.
We get thousands of listens. Who knows? For all we know, he's already listening. He's taking notes.
I'm interrupted. We have somebody from the NFL listening.
Yeah, Tampa Bay listen to UI, so I'm sure Feige and the creative team at Marvel and Disney are listening to NerdPod. It only makes sense.
Wait,
exactly. Who?
What?
Who from the Bucks listened?
You not
Somebody in.
chat?
No,
Some-
not really.
Yeah, come on.
Buccaneers legitimately listens to our podcast and like is talking to Brian about like working for the team.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. It's really, really cool and exciting. Great
Nate-
things happen over here at
Yeah,
Pones
yeah.
Media.
It's time to make fun of me and Brian and
Oh, y'all are hilarious. So, with talking about Scarlet Witch and her mental state and the things she's going to go through in WandaVision, we have news that a character called Agatha Harkness is going to be in the show. She's a very, very powerful witch, and she's someone who actually helps Scarlet Witch learn how to use her chaos magic. And she has some entanglement with Scarlet Witch, not only from teaching her how to use her powers, but in the comics, there is a battle that happens involving Agatha Harkness and Salem that is actually the way that Scarlet Witch is able to conceive her two children. Now, in the trailer, we see in her reality, she has children with Vision. I don't know how those are going to line up, if they're going to line up, if it's just going to be Scarlet Witch playing out, scenes in her head. But it's very interesting to see how Agatha is going to play in. She isn't always a villain to Scarlet Witch, but she has been at times. So she might be the villain, but we've also had talks of Mephisto possibly being involved in this, as well as Nightmare. So Mephisto is a huge villain. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't necessarily see him being brought in to Scarlet Witch. I feel like they might save him for the Multiverse of Madness for Doctor Strange.
I was about to say that.
But
Because he's more of like, he's obviously a big character in like
mm-hmm.
the multiverse and stuff like that. But like, I feel like obviously these shows are big and stuff like that. But by no, but like I feel like he's more of a movie guy.
Yes,
and
exactly.
He's also more of like a Doctor Strange villain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he lines up more with Doctor Strange. And so with Mephisto possibly, if you guys agree with me, possibly being a villain in Doctor Strange, I'm actually wondering if by the end of Scarlet Witch, if she might start off as an antagonist in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, if she's lost control of her powers. I see Mark nodding. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's not just a possibility. I think it's a likelihood. Okay. I think that I don't think that this is going to be a buddy cop movie between Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange, like just trying to figure out the multiverse together. I think that Scarlet Witch, by the end of WandaVision, is going to be very dangerous. Like, to compare to what we were talking about with X-Men, with Dark Phoenix, like the fact that they all had to find a way to control and maybe even kill Jean Grey. I think that Doctor Strange is going to have to try and find a way to stop Scarlet Witch from maybe creating all these different timelines, different multiverses through whatever is going on in her head. Maybe she's doing something that threatens the whole basis of our reality. Because I mean, he did have that one quip to Tony Stark in Infinity War, where protecting your reality, douchebag. If Wanda's doing anything to threaten that, then even though they've been on the same side in the past, they could be adversaries, and I think that's probably I think that's a likely possibility, not just like a wild.
Yeah, and would you agree with that, Austin?
Oh, I agree with that completely, and I feel like Manifesto would be like a good villain to be like the Mr. Sinister, like sort of like a Mr. Sinister, where they think Scarlet Witch thinks that this is a good guy, but in the end it's actually not a good guy.
Yeah.
Where
and maybe he's causing some of her.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. Like you see in the last episode, just a flash of him creating all the mental issues that she's having, and you figure out that he created all of her problems.
Yeah, I could see something like that happening too. Now, Nate, I'm not sure how inundated are you with the Marvel movies, at least. Have you seen a lot of these? No? Okay.
What's the best answer here?
The honest
The best
answer.
answer is
He hasn't gotten to them yet.
Yeah,
There you
will I
go. The
be
political
removed?
answer. No, not at all. Let me just ask you this then. Do these shows and future movies sound interesting to you? Is it something that might make you? No? Are you not a superhero nerd?
Not
We're not
really.
going to talk about just superheroes. It's okay. We'll have stuff for you later. That's totally
Okay.
fine. So, with Wanda and Scarlet Witch, I've kind of alluded already. I talked to her about having children. Now, I'm not sure if in WandaVision her children are going to be real or just maybe she manifests them. I don't know how that's going to play out, but in the comics, she does have children, and they have said that there have been rumors that they're casting school-age boys. So Wanda has 2 sons. They're twins. One is Speed, which, if that doesn't tell you anything, he is a speedster like her brother. His name is Tommy Shepard. His brothers were raised in different households. They weren't actually raised by Scarlet Witch and Vision. So his name is Tommy Shepard. He can run at the speed of sound and can use his vibrations to cause things to explode. I'm wondering if we're going to see him in this. Do you guys think? What do you think, Mark? Do you think we're going to see Speed?
Yeah, I think that we're going to see Speed and Wiccan. I think that they're going to be figments of Wanda's imagination. Similar to Vision in general, I think that she is going to envision this sitcom style life. Going back to that, I think this is something that she desires now that the world has been saved through Endgame. It's probably something that she wants, that normalcy that she was starting to form with Vision. Remember, they were off in Scotland together at the start of Infinity War. He changed himself to look like a person, like they were, so that they were just spending all that time together.
Regular people.
Yeah, they were like craving some sort of normalcy, and I think she's going to try and find a way to do that again. And what's the biggest form of stability? Marriage and kids. So I think that they're going to be figments of her imagination. And again, when she snaps, they never existed, and all hell breaks loose.
And exactly. Yeah. I could see that happening too. You think so too, Austin?
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of how that'll play out. Now, you said, Mark, that we have Speed, who is one twin, and then the other one is Wiccan, who you mentioned. His name is Billy Chapman. He is a magic user like his mom. Now, he's obviously younger than Scarlet Witch, so there's a lot of question of just how strong is he going to be one day. He uses, his most common thing is electrokinesis, where he controls electricity with his mind. But he can fly. He has a lot of different powers, and it'll be interesting to see if he's brought in, where he goes. Maybe in the future we'll get to see him more. But he's an interesting character, not just because who his parents are, not just because of the fact that he is a very powerful magic user, but Billy is actually going to help us get into the meat of what I wanted to talk about today. So as we all hopefully know, June is Pride Month, where we celebrate and support the LGBTQ plus community. And with the things that have been going on with our nation, there's a lot of turmoil for our people of color, and they're going through a lot right now. So I wanted to take a lot of time of this video to talk about representation of LGBTQ in different nerdy media, as well as people of color. So Billy's going to help us transition into our LGBTQ section, because Billy is gay. He is openly gay. He is a teenager who is in a relationship with another hero called the Hulkling. His normal name, his birth name is Teddy Altman, and he's actually a Skrull, which is really interesting and cool. He shapeshifts to look more like the Hulk, and he's really strong. They've been canonically in a relationship on and off, as teenagers will be, but they have been dating for a good period of time in the comics, I believe since 2015. And I think it's a really cool representation, not just of the LGBTQ community, but for people and young people of that age who are going through things. Billy comes out in the comics, so you get to see that unfold for you. it's just I think it's a really, really good thing to see, because I think even nowadays, and maybe you guys feel differently, but I think it has never gone away that people in that community have a difficult time being accepted. I'm hoping that it's getting better. As a teacher, I hope and pray that it gets better, because the amount of stress that it puts on people who have to live with the fear of coming out just breaks my heart. So yeah, there's that it's a very personal issue for me being a teacher. It is very, very personal. So I just wanted to ask you guys, with that representation, do you guys think that do you think that it is the place of things like comics to show that representation? Do you think they have a responsibility to say, these people are here and we need to represent them? How does everybody feel? How do you feel, Nate? I feel like this you could have some feelings on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finally, I get to speak. Yeah, I feel like you definitely have to, especially with what's like happening today with what you said about people are having a hard time coming out and getting like accepted, because like you see online that people get like kicked out of their house or like something like that, or school, because something happened with them coming out, especially with the way stuff does happen within the world, which especially right now, I feel like everyone should be accepted, or not just right now, every time.
Yes, all the time. No, you're fine. I think what's been going on just brings things to the forefront that unfortunately all of us don't deal with all the time. So
that's
I
what
agree
I
with
meant,
that.
but I messed up a little bit.
No, you're good. I totally agree with that. I get what you were going with. How about you, Mark? How do you feel?
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think it's of like it's tantamount importance for especially an institution like Marvel that has such a following. I think that it's important for them to really make sure that they nail representation with their fans, because the MCU and just Marvel comics and entertainment in general has fans of all ages, sexual orientation, race, gender, shapes and sizes. I mean, like there are so many Marvel fans all over the world. And I think the way that Marvel established itself I think it was the right way to do it, in the sense that they introduced their mainline heroes first, great stories, and because of that, were able to build a huge audience. Even people who weren't previously watching the films got into them. And now that they have such a massive following, this is the time, especially to try and take risks, introduce some of your less popular characters who might be of color. I mean, Black Panther wasn't necessarily a popular character compared to some of the other Marvel heroes, and that was a legitimate cultural event. I mean, I remember going to the theater, and I remember seeing African American couple like in their 70s, there to watch Black Panther, and they said it was like really important for them to see not only a Black superhero, but a superhero film that had a almost completely Black cast.
Yes.
You had Andy Serkis,
Bilbo Baggins.
You had two white guys, but the majority, it was a Black cast, and it was huge for the Black community. It was a commercial success. So not only were you were you making sure that you were representing the Black community through Black Panther, it was also a commercial success for them too. So it shows that if you go and you represent people of color, the LGBT community. I mean, number one, it was hinted but not really established in Thor Ragnarok that Valkyrie was a lesbian. I think it's going to be made more obvious in Love and Thunder, apparently.
I agree.
And then in Eternals, there will be an openly gay character in Eternals. So they're making a point to not just represent their existing properties that weren't at the forefront, but they're legitimately saying, like, okay, well, there's going to be a character from Eternals who we had never made a point of declaring their sexual orientation before. We're going to make this character a gay character. Like they're going out of their way to do that. And I think that's huge for their audience, because everyone wants to feel included, and
exactly
that no one wants to be excluded. So this could be huge for a young person who might be struggling with coming out. If they see a gay character on the screen in a superhero film, kicking a bad guy's ass, like that could be huge for them. The same way when I saw people complaining about the women team up scene in Endgame.
Right.
Like,
a lot of people complain about that one.
what the hell is the matter with you? Like, was it absolutely critical to the storyline? Maybe not, but was it still really cool? Yes. And it took 30 seconds. So does it need to bother you that much? Imagine being like a 12-year-old girl sitting there watching the game. That must have been the coolest thing in the world to see. So
Yes.
yeah, I think that representation. I feel similar to you, Christian. Is an important topic because especially at a time now when people are speaking out about how marginalized they feel due to the color of their skin or their sexual orientation.
Mm-hmm.
Having them represented in a superhero movie is not going to cure society's ills, but it's going to hopefully make them feel at least a little bit better about themselves. Like, I'm seeing myself on the screen as opposed to just the generic. You see a cast full of just straight white people. So,
yeah.
I think.
Good. I'm glad. I feel like that was really, really well said. You made a lot of amazing points. How do you feel, Austin?
I completely agree with everything Mark just said and that you said. And like I know like I think it was in like the early 2000s, I know they made like North Star gay, or at least Marvel did.
Yes, they did.
So like and that was in like the early 2000s, so that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So like things are a lot different. Than they're still bad for like gay people and trans people, but like 20 years ago it was even worse, and 50 years ago before that it was even worse. But like 20 years ago, like, and I'm pretty sure back then Marvel got flack for it, turning him gay. And a couple years ago when they made Iceman gay.
Like, we were gonna bring up Iceman, exactly. Yeah.
Like they got a lot of because like he notoriously dated Kitty Pryde for years and stuff like that, and it doesn't matter. Who cares if he's gay?
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter. Not being gay doesn't affect you as a human being.
Exactly. It doesn't make him any less a hero. And
no,
I know a lot of people call that retconning. A lot of people called it retconning. I know I've had discussions myself with people who say that it was brainwashing because it was Rogue that kind of brought that about with probing into his mind that maybe she brainwashed him into being gay. But I think the fact that he dated Kitty Pryde in the comics for so long and stuff actually helps represent a group of people who also don't get representation, which is all of the gay men and women who live in heterosexual marriages, even have children, only to later become so miserable that they decide it's finally time for them to, take back their power and come out as gay. I think that's another group of people that they were able to represent by doing that. Now, obviously, fans are going to get upset about everything, and people can feel how they feel about whatever they want to feel, but I think that was a cool thing for them to do too. And it's not just comics. We don't just have comics. Marvel also has had Apollo and Midnighter, who were kind of their version of Superman and Batman, who have been openly gay since the late 90s, invisibly gay in the comics, in a relationship, and are still, I know from doing my research that they broke up at some point, but in their most recent iteration of their comics are dating currently. So again, Marvel's bringing a lot of representation. DC has representation
and
too.
So is DC as well.
Yes, they do. And
I was just about to say like Batwing.
Exactly.
He's out. I don't think he's gay. He's not gay, but he is of color.
Batwing. He is, yes, and we're gonna have a section where we talk about just our characters of color. This one we're gonna talk more about our openly gay members. I know that we have a couple, and we even have people that fall into both categories, and I'm gonna talk about them. So we're gonna go LGBTQ, people who fall into both categories, and then we'll go over our people of color. So not just with DC Marvel comics. I know I am personally a fan of Doctor Who. Do I have any other Doctor? Do I have any Whovians here?
I watched like some when I was younger, but like the David Tennant and stuff like that season.
I I love Doctor Who.
David Tennant is the best ones. I kind of want to
David
rewatch
Tennant
it.
is awesome.
I
You should
kinda wanna,
rewatch it. You should.
It's on HBO Max. Like I might.
Oh, see, another reason I need to get it. I would rewatch the Doctor Who in a heartbeat. I wanted to bring up Doctor Who specifically for a couple with the names of Madame Vastra and Jenny Flint. I want to make sure I was saying her name right. If anybody sees me looking down, that's what I'm making sure I'm saying all of this correctly. They were badass females and in a very healthy gay relationship, which is also something worth talking about because I know I hear a lot from people in the LGBTQ community that their relationships can be shown as unhealthy or broken or, you know, they're just not portrayed in the best light to show that it's someone in a gay relationship or whatever kind of relationship they might be in, because we have pansexual people too. People across the spectrum can have normal relationships. It's not just cis hetero relationships that are healthy and can be good parents and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to bring that couple up specifically for that. I think they were a really good representation of a caring couple who had a lot of understanding for each other and always had each other's back. I thought that was a great couple. With Carnival Row, I wanted to bring up, I don't know if anybody, I haven't watched Carnival Row. I don't know if anybody on here has caught it.
I've never heard of it.
It looks really cool. It's got Orlando Bloom in it. It's about fairies and that magic realm. I think it's a really cool show. I just haven't happened to watch it. But we actually had a queer actress playing a queer character, which again is not something that happens very often, but she was able to take her character Vignette and put on screen, you know, a representation of who she is. She was able to put herself into that character in that way. And DC, we're going to bring up a trans character because I want to make sure we cover more of the spectrum of the LGBTQ community. DC has a character named Coagula, who's a transsexual woman, and she can coagulate liquids and dissolve solids at will. So sounds pretty cool. I've never seen any of her comics. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that. I knew there's like I wasn't sure if it was Marvel or DC. I knew that somebody had made a transgender one. Now it's like two big comics. I couldn't remember who.
Yes.
You can snap her fingers and have scrambled eggs.
Which is awesome. I would love that life. I am hungry all the time currently. So that would be amazing. So I really liked that they represented transsexuals too, because again, we live in a heterosexual world.
Society.
So
we live in a society.
Yes, we live in a society that errs toward heterosexuality. So being able to see such a wide spectrum is amazing. And DC also has Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy. And their relationship has been shown on and off again in the comics and in shows for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I think that they have, I mean, it's not a perfect relationship. I'm not going to say it is, but no relationship is. But I think that they have a relationship that shows that even if you as a person are broken, or even if you have darknesses in you, you can still come into a relationship and have a healthy relationship.
It's a lot. Her relationship with Poison Ivy is a lot healthier than it is with Joker, though.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. And that's a statement because we all know how bad her relationship was with the Joker.
I think you raised a good point too, Christian, that I think it's important to represent the totality of these, gay, trans, any sort of relationship, as opposed to just, it seems like the majority of the time they simply will represent the physical components of the relationship. Right. Okay, we showed these two lesbians kissing, like, see their representation. Like there's more to a relationship than that. Like there's the emotional aspect, like you're referring to. Like the two people connecting on, a spiritual and an emotional, intellectual level. And that's something that's constantly seen with, heterosexual relationships. But with, I feel like most people in either TV or film, they feel like, well, the only way for us to show a homosexual relationship is just to show something sexual. Like, right. And I think that if you can get beyond that, you don't think they think that way, Austin?
No, I'm agreeing with you. I meant like agreeing with you, like that they don't have to. It doesn't always have to be sexual relations.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Represent it.
I think that like if they can actually go as far as to show actual healthy relationships, as you're saying, something that goes beyond just like a token gesture, I think that would be massive, and that would actually help. It wouldn't be just inclusion for inclusion's sake. It would actually help people feel like, okay, they're actually representing me. This is what I go through
Yes.
on a daily basis. I think it would really help.
Yes, and I love that you bring that up because you also brought up, or it was brought up, that Eternals is going to have an openly gay character. His name is Festus, and he is already cast. Like, he is going to be a character. His husband has been cast, and they have 2 children. So we are not only seeing a gay couple, but we're seeing a gay couple who's parenting. And from reading and doing research on this, I've seen that they share a very emotional moment it centers around a kiss, but it also shows that, like you said, like I said, gay couples have those moments too. It's not just a heterosexual couple kissing in the rain. Like, that's just not the world that we live in. So with them taking a gay couple and having children and showing a gay family, I want to round robin and ask you guys, do you think that is a risk for them, or do you think that is something that is going to actually pay off for them, kind of the way that Mark talked about Black Panther? What do you think, Austin?
I feel like it's going to pay off because you're going to bring in a new audience of, obviously with Black Panther, it brought in a whole shit ton of viewership. It made over $1 billion. It was a wildly successful movie. It's raved by critics and stuff like that because it shows a different culture. It shows a different side than what we are typically used to seeing in either Iron Man or Captain America or Thor.
Yeah.
It's something different. It's a new thing, and bringing in representation for an LGBTQ, it's a lot different than obviously you're straight, as you were saying, like we've been pressing a straight heterosexual relationships between like Pepper and Tony and stuff like that. It's different because it shows a different side of life.
Yeah. What do you think, Nate?
Oh, definitely. I agree with Austin that it's going to pay off for him without a doubt. That you're going to bring in all those new viewers to, just to, you know what I mean? I'm just stumbling here.
No, you're good.
Yeah. And then also I want to bring up, with Mark said, that it's more than just like a kiss or whatever. That I just finished Riverdale, and they showed with Cheryl and Tony that they like about their whole relationship. It wasn't just like like all their like sexual experience. Like they spent a lot of time together with
Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin.
There you go. Thank you. I can remember.
Yeah.
Kevin and Moose, Kevin and Fang.
Kevin. Yeah, all of them. That they showed like all of the relationship, not just like the sexual parts.
Yeah.
So
they equally represented how they did with heterosexuals, so with Archie and Veronica, Betty and Jughead. They did it for both sides.
Yeah.
And that's what you need. You don't need just like, and like in some shows, like they've done that. I know in like Glee, they did it. They navigated it well with like Kurt Hummel and Blaine and Santana and Brittany for those years and that stuff. Like in some shows, like they represent it well, and then some shows you just have they represent horribly.
Right.
Yeah.
They really do, and that's something that I know people suffer all over the place. Personally, I am a big anime watcher. They don't always represent gay relationships in anime well. I watch channels that are run by people in the LGBTQ community who review anime, and they talk about this is not what our relationships are like. We hate that people write these relationships like this because either A, that means they believe that's what they're like, or B, people who watch these things are going to assume this is what our relationships are like, and they're not. They're normal relationships. No matter your color or your sexual orientation, you are still a person, and you go through relationships like a person. That's not to at all minimize the struggles that people in those communities go through. I am Cuban, but nobody would ever guess it. I've never had to deal with any racial stigmas because of the color of my skin. So I know that I don't get those kind of things. I get it, but I do think it is so, so important to point out that everyone is a person. We're all people. We're all the same. We deserve the same respect that everybody else does. And moving on to that, we're actually going to talk about people who fall into both categories. So our wonderful humans who just so happen to be LGBTQ plus and a person of color. We're going to start off with Renee Montoya, aka The Question. She is a DC Comics character who is currently dating Kate. What's her last name? Kate Kane. Yes, who is
Batwoman.
In Batwoman, yes. She also in the comics has dated Barbara Gordon, another member of the Bat team. So, yes, Renee is a Dominican police officer who, like I said, has been in a couple of relationships throughout the comics. She was shown in Birds of Prey. It was never stated that she was gay. I know in the comics she actually gets outed and suffers some consequences because she's outed as being a gay police officer. I hope exactly. I hope that kind of stuff doesn't happen anymore. I know, like Austin said, things have gotten better over time, but
it's still horrible.
People are still mean. Like, people are still mean. They're opinionated. They want reasons to make people different from them. And so I hope that doesn't happen in fields like the police or the military. I know we had, the whole don't ask, don't tell. I'm a military brat, just to say. I don't think anybody else on here is. But I was very much raised in that don't ask, don't tell mentality. And only later on in life did I realize how stupid it was. So we have those stigmas in fields like that occurring today, and they show that struggle through the comics, which I think is important. We also have Thunder, who is the daughter of Black Lightning. Her name is Anissa Pierce, and she is an African American who has lightning powers, and she's dating an Asian American named Grace Choi. So that is an LGBTQ biracial relationship right there. So they made a great representation of both sides. I should say great representation. I haven't read the comics to know what their relationship is like. I haven't watched. I believe they're together in Black Lightning. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if anybody can confirm that for me or not. I haven't watched Black Lightning.
I haven't either.
Okay.
I've watched like probably one episode. I kind of want to get into it because I really like CW shows, and I'm going to try to rewatch them all because I loved Arrow. I was like,
it was good.
Yeah.
We know you loved
it. I'm sad it's over. I love Stephen Amell.
It is depressing. He did a really, really good job.
Oh yeah. Like even like the writing in that show got crappy. He still did a good job.
Yes, he gave it his all. And actually to bring up Arrow, that was a great segue. Austin, thank you. White Canary, aka Sarah Lance, is also a lesbian character. She obviously went over into Legends of Tomorrow and became a big character there. And they show her relationship in that show. So that's a great one if you guys want to be able to see these characters represented on screen. Like Austin said, Batwoman, they show that relationship in that show too.
And also Supergirl's sister in Supergirl, the one who's played by
Austin. Thank you. See, I didn't know that. I haven't watched Supergirl. I don't know why. I just haven't.
It's good. It's good.
So we have some representation. I want to open it up just to see, does anybody know of any other couples? I'm sure that I had others on the list, but because of time constraints, I have a new puppy, so I had very little time to get my show notes together today. But I may have missed somebody. Does anybody have anyone else that they would like to shout out now? Who is of color and LGBTQ+.
Echo Killam's Mr. Terrific in Arrow. Mr. Terrific in general. Who's played by Echo Killam in Arrow.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
In Arrow, yes.
Yeah.
Well, and just in the comics in general.
Well, it's good that the CW, I mean, I should bring that up too, actually, thank you, Austin, you just reminded me. The Charmed sisters in another CW show, so CW's given us some representation. One of the Charmed sisters is gay. All three of them are various Latino and mixed race, and Mel is actually a lesbian also, and we see her go through one relationship that falls apart because of her powers, and another one where she walks away from someone because they're jeopardized by her powers, which is exactly what happens with a lot of our heterosexual characters. So again, they're just showing that people, no matter who you are or what you like, are just people. We all go through a lot of the same stuff emotionally and mentally. So moving on from that, we're going to speak about our people of color. So this is our moment, again, with what's going on in the country right now. I want to say that Marvel has put out an entire section on Marvel Unlimited that highlights their African-American creators. I've perused only part of it, but there's a lot of really, really awesome stuff on there, guys. Obviously, the Black Panther, a lot of the Black Panther comics were written by people of African-American origin, but a lot of non-African-American heroes were written by African-American people. It's kind of like we've talked before about female directors. You don't have to be one thing to write or create that one thing. Also, that brings up just very quickly Dumbledore, which I wish I had brought it up earlier. I'm going to go over this real quick. But Dumbledore is a big retcon. Dumbledore was never gay until, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on her name?
J.K. Rowling.
Thank you.
You're blanking on her name. She's canceled.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's probably why she forgot.
Maybe, because it's one of those things where people said, she retconned Dumbledore into being gay because she wanted to be popular. Just like she said, I never said Hermione wasn't black. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't mean she was.
Yeah.
And it's also hard, considering she was played by Emma Watson, who's a white actress.
Right, and J.K. Rowling obviously didn't have a problem with that. She didn't stop and say, oh, let's recast her. So that's another thing to talk about, is even that just shows, I think, the time period in which J.K. Rowling was writing that book. Maybe now that we're in a different time period, she realizes, oh, maybe I should have thrown some representation in. She's trying to redeem it with the Fantastic Beasts series and showing Dumbledore's relationship with Grindelwald.
But would she want to do stuff? Because she's canceled for saying transphobic shit. It's like,
wait, what did she say?
You're an awful human being. She's pretty much it's hard to explain because I don't really know the exact story. But she's a very transphobic person.
She's in a series of transphobic tweets over the past week.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just why we if
there's no reason
we shouldn't have those thoughts.
Yes, it shows a deep-rooted issue that people have to actively overcome, and that's why we're trying. I know on our One for the Girls podcast, we're highlighting Black-owned makeup brands. We have to make an effort, and I don't just mean we as us here on this podcast right now. I mean we as people in the world have to actively move against these things. So, off my soapbox now. Sorry, I brought up J.K. Rowling and went off on a tangent. So our people of color characters, I would love to start with one of my favorite Marvel movies, which was Black Panther. I loved King T'Challa. I loved Shuri. I loved Okoye. She was amazing. Okoye is one of my favorite characters in all of Marvel. I just absolutely adore her. And I actually, in my research, figured out that at one point, Shuri takes up the mantle of Black Panther, and she actually becomes the first female Black Panther. So I thought that was really cool too. It's something I didn't know about. We have obviously Falcon is another awesome. Falcon and War Machine, great, very visible characters in the MCU. I wanted to see. I have a couple other characters, but I wanted to open it up for you guys. Do you guys have any characters, people of color, that you wanted to talk about? Mark, do you have anybody from the MCU? We'll start there.
Yeah. So I am probably in the minority on this one, but I think that from Black Panther, the very best character in the entire film is M'Baku. I think that M'Baku is just he steals every scene that he's in, from the jokes to just his morals and his principles. He's kind of hard-headed, but then when it comes down to trying to save the country that he's from, his homeland, he chose to that he wants to fight for it. So Winston Duke did a tremendous job as M'Baku, and I like that we were able to see him in a little bit in Infinity War and Endgame as well. I think he'll probably end up playing a huge role in Black Panther 2, but I thought he was the best character in that film by far.
I'm glad you brought him up because he is probably second to Okoye for those same exact reasons you just mentioned. I love a big softie. Like he was so hard until it counted, and then he was a big softie. Like I just can't. I love that. Yes.
Exactly. He was so funny. Someone who I'd love to see brought into the MCU, who again, it's like we got to take the Men in Black flashy thing out and be like, what happened? But Luke Cage, I really liked Luke Cage season 1 in the MCU. I think that Luke Cage became a really hateable character in season 2. Like I was actually rooting for Bushmaster in season 2. Actually rooting against Luke Cage, but the concept of there's like a bulletproof guy, like
right.
Something to just be like super strong, but just to be like, this guy's like skin is impenetrable, and he's super strong. Like I would really like to see Luke Cage in the hands of people who actually know what they're doing, and that's what Kevin Feige is. Maybe find a home for him on the big screen, and then also someone who hasn't shown up yet, but I'm excited to see. Obviously, the news from Comic-Con last summer that Mahershala Ali is going to play Blade.
Yes.
I am really excited for that. I really liked the Blade movies with Wesley Snipes. Which are obviously not connected to the MCU. They predate that, but they are a Marvel property. Quite frankly, Wesley Snipes looks great right now. He could probably still play the role if
he's not in trouble with the law for tax evasion, so we good.
Well, he was also famously difficult to work with on the set of Blade, especially the third one. So I think that any possibility of that was out the window. But no, Mahershala Ali is one of my favorite actors right now. I really loved him in Green Book as well as Moonlight. I think that he's a really talented actor, and he basically pitched this to Kevin Feige. Like, imagine how much pull you have to have. Kevin Feige's in charge of this, mega movie empire. He doesn't have to bend to anyone's will. And Mahershala Ali's like, I want to get on your calendar, and he shows up. He's like, I want to be Blade. Like that. It was his idea.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're just gonna do this now. Like that. That's how much pull he has right now. So he hasn't shown up yet, but I can't wait to see. I know it's going to be in his own solo film. I can't wait to see what kind of story that they have lined up and how that kind of manifests itself.
Yeah, Blade is such like an interesting character too, because like you see him somewhat in like exactly, like you see him somewhat in like the '90s Spider-Man TV show as we were talking about earlier, and like he was such a good character for like those story arcs that they had with like Morbius and stuff like that, and
It's gonna be so awesome. How about you, Austin? You got any people to shout out?
Yeah, all the people that Mark was just saying, and I'm honestly surprised you forgot about him, Mark. Nick Fury.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Nick Fury goes it goes without saying, like he's the godfather of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Imagine how cool you have to be that if you look in the comic, Nick Fury is a white man. Like
and then they retconned it. Where in like the Ultimate version he was black, but they retconned it just because Samuel Jackson said, because and then they retconned him to be black now in the comics.
He was originally a white military man, very straight personality, and basically Marvel was like, hey, we're gonna cast Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, and not only that, he's basically just playing himself as if he's wearing an eye patch and in charge of a super secret government agency.
Organization,
How cool Samuel L. Jackson is that he does just be yourself because you're that cool.
And also, I mean, and I've watched like a couple minutes of like the '90s David Hasselhoff Nick Fury thing, and I'm just telling to everybody, don't watch it. It is absolutely horrible. But
Take your word for it.
they made a good decision switching it up.
Yeah.
And then also like Michael B. Jordan, obviously he redeemed himself after the whole Fantastic Four disaster
Yeah.
with with Killmonger.
Yes, he did a
I-
great job as Killmonger.
But God, that Fantastic Four movie was awful.
It was hot fire garbage.
Michael B. Jordan was the best part of that movie, though. Like that was a
he was
redeemable
one
movie.
of the redeeming
He was
qualities.
actually like really entertaining as Johnny
Mhm.
Storm.
Yeah, he was one of those few redeeming qualities
Yeah.
in that movie. And like then didn't like a couple weeks ago like they try to retcon and say that Kate Mara's and Sue Storm wasn't adopted or something. It's like, how would she not be adopted?
Who knows?
Yeah.
The retconning is out of control.
Like
Hashtag end
just
retconning.
put those in the trash.
Yeah.
That movie in the trash.
The actual director of the movie said that it was a turd that the studio should have put in the toilet. Like he literally
Sorry, I didn't know that.
They made it specifically because they wanted to hold on to the movie rights. They had to rush the movie out, and then got a few years later they end up getting acquired by Disney anyway. So they didn't need the effort.
And at least with like the Schneider cut, they have with Justice League, they have different versions.
Yeah.
Where they can release it. They don't have that pile of crap.
Right. Yeah. No, that's true. So Nate, do you have anybody from the MCU? There's one person that I definitely forgot, but do you have anybody, Nate?
No, unfortunately, no. I don't really watch that many movies, and I got
That's
Netflix like two weeks ago, and I also have Disney Plus, so maybe.
Hey, okay.
Yeah, I can watch more.
He's gonna watch them all now.
Yes, you should.
Don't start with Iron Man 1.
All right, I won't. Then.
You want him? You don't want him to go canonically? I guess the one Hulk movie was the first one.
Incredible Hulk canon?
The first Iron Man has Terrence Howard as Rhodey, and not they recast him for Iron Man 2.
They did a good thing with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Terrence Howard is a great actor, but he just didn't fit that role. Don Cheadle's perfect for that role.
Yeah, he did a much better job, and I'm glad that he's going to be continuing to be in that role moving forward. So let me ask Nate, have you heard of a character called Storm?
Yeah, how did we forget her?
X-Men?
I've heard about her.
Okay, hey, look, you've heard.
It was a little bit ago, not like a little bit ago, but like you know what I mean, like a few months ago. Yeah.
That's okay. So you've heard of her, so you're up on it. So Storm is a really, really cool character to me. Obviously has really, really amazing weather powers. Her character has been through a lot. I know we see her in the original X-Men. I don't necessarily feel like they showed a lot of what Storm went through. She was just kind of there and already an adult and all kinds of stuff. But her character went through really, really bad situations in Africa where she was born, and she's actually a queen technically. She's
married to T'Challa.
Yeah, so I don't know how I forgot to mention her, but she is an awesome character in the MCU that I would love to see. I hope that we do get another iteration. I know we've done X-Men a lot, but Storm has always been one of my favorite characters since Halle Berry played her in the original X-Men movies. So I would love to be able to see her come back. Now,
I liked her the actor who played her, and when I actually liked her. I feel like she's one of those characters that I feel like could come back and I'd be fine with, and not like where I'd get Sophie Turner out of it.
Yeah. So with that, we've gone through our Marvel characters, and if there are more, then I just want to say that we did not leave anyone out because of any kind of desire to not represent them. Those were the people that we had time to discuss. I want to move to DC because I actually I found a character that I've never heard of before, and I'm surprised I've never heard of her before because she's really cool. Her name is Nubia, and she is actually Wonder Woman's twin sister.
Yeah, I've never heard of her either.
See, I've never heard of her. She is, I believe, supposed to be represented as an African-American woman. She's supposed to be a black lady, and she is badass. She was actually kidnapped from Hippolyta by Mars when she was a baby and brainwashed. He had a special ring that he put on her. She forgot who she was, and she actually comes to fight Wonder Woman on Themyscira, and at one point actually beats her. She is actually able to best Wonder Woman in combat until Wonder Woman's able to remove the ring that's brainwashing her, at which point the two sisters turn and fight Mars together. Do I think that would be such a freaking cool movie? Yes, I do. 100%. The fact that none of us have heard of her, I think would make it even cooler, because again, we need Black Panther being the only superhero film that represents Black people should change. And I think it would be a really, really cool way to diversify DCU. I also wanted to bring up the fact, I know I said, no retconning, but I think the fact that they cast Jason Momoa as Aquaman was a good choice for DC, not just because ladies love Jason Momoa, but because I think that he did an interesting take on Aquaman. And I think he's a good actor. I liked him as Khal Drogo. I like him as Aquaman. He loves his role. He's very, very passionate about playing that, which I think is amazing to see. And I also wanted to bring up Miles Morales, because Into the Spider-Verse is one of my favorite superhero movies too. Not just because of the style, because I thought the artwork was beautiful. Again,
I love that movie.
Yes, it was so good. And I'm an anime person. Like, I like movies that are animated. So that plays into it too. But I think it was awesome. And we're getting Spider-Verse 2 in 2021, I think, is when they're predicted to put it out, which is surprising to me.
It got pushed back, 2022.
Is it pushed back to 2022? Boo. I'm really, really excited about it, no matter what they do. So Miles Morales is awesome. I know before we got on, Nate was asking about video games. I know there's hope that we're getting a Miles Morales Spider-Man game for the PS4.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure it was like an add-on.
Confirmed.
Yeah. It's an add-on or a new game.
So
I think IGN said it was an add-on.
That it's a standalone, Nate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought IGN
That's
said it was an add-on.
IGN had gotten wrong, but like the designer of the game and Insomnia Games had like confirmed, no, this is a standalone game, because like there's a bunch of people saying, oh, it's not, and that's like what people didn't like for a couple of hours, and then because adding a DLC is.
I was not going to get psyched to have to play the same exact game again just to get to the new Miles content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know people are excited about that. I'm really, really glad to hear that it's its own game. I will not be getting a PS4 or a PS5 because we are an Xbox household. But
ooh, you're an Xbox family.
Yeah, we are an Xbox family. We are. We're going to be getting the brick. But we're going to make it, by the way, guys, if you want to tune in, if you're a gamer, we are going to have an Xbox versus PlayStation episode. I hope you guys get excited about that one. So those are my couple throw-ins for DC. Let me open it back up again to see if anybody else has some. Mark, have anybody you want to talk about?
Yeah, actually, so one of the main villains of the upcoming Robert Pattinson Batman movie. So Selina Kyle, Catwoman, is going to be played by Zoe Kravitz. So that's a change. I mean, we've seen Halle Berry play Catwoman before, but traditionally Selina Kyle has been has usually been a Caucasian character. So Zoe Kravitz is going to be playing an iteration of Selina Kyle, which I think is awesome. Yeah. And interestingly enough, she had auditioned for this role for The Dark Knight Rises, and Christopher Nolan he made a. I mean, I don't want Christopher Nolan to get canceled, but he made a somewhat he made a comment that she was too urban looking to play that character, which doesn't sound great. And with Anne Hathaway, which admittedly I think she did a pretty good job, but I'm excited to see. I think Zoe Kravitz is a fantastic actress, so I'm excited to see her take on the Catwoman character.
Yeah, and she's also done a good job in superhero movies, because she was in X-Men First Class, and she did a really good job. Yeah. And she's family ties are in the DC universe now, because she's Jason Momoa's stepdad. That's Jason Momoa's stepdad.
Yeah, Jason Momoa's stepfather.
That would be a whole different. Yeah, right.
Like that. Like that's just kind of like that's like one of those like small world things that like. Yeah. Hey, my stepdad is Aquaman. I'm Catwoman.
Yeah. It's really, it's good news to hear, and I'm glad that studios aren't afraid of that. Nate, do you have anybody to add before I go off on my tangent? I'm going to shoot off on a little tangent that I forgot to bring up. So I forgot to bring up I might not be aware to things like whitewashing. If you're listening or watching, you don't know what whitewashing is. It is where characters of color are cast as white people. I know I've heard, again, people like to hate and they like to complain. Whatever. People can be angry about whatever they want to be angry about, but they get angry when people move in the other direction. People got upset about Ariel being cast, Zendaya being cast as Ariel, Starfire. I'm not sure what the actress's name is. Austin, do you know?
I don't. I've watched the show, but I don't know her name.
Okay. So the actress that plays Starfire in the Teen Titans show is black. And what really upset me, reversing back to the MCU, because I forgot to bring this up and I really wanted to, is I don't know why they decided to cast the Ancient One as a white woman. I don't know who thought that was a great idea. I don't think she did a bad job. I don't want to hate on her for acting. I think she did a good job in that role. But we have a lot of really great Asian male actors who could have played the Ancient One, who is an Asian male. And that was always something that bothered me, just because it's one of those things like, why? Why did we have to do that? Why?
And also, just like in another one, like where they in the Great Wall movie, they had Matt Damon be a Chinese person.
Right. Like, yeah.
Matt Damon is not Chinese.
Not Chinese. No.
He's a white dude from Boston.
Yeah.
Obviously, for Iron Man 3, there were a lot of people at the time who were upset that Ben Kingsley played the Mandarin.
Yes.
Although that has been revealed that he was basically just a fake, and the real Mandarin is going to be in Shang-Chi coming up. So
I'm excited to see him.
Yeah, we are going to actually get the Mandarin. We're going to see how powerful a villain he is. I remember at the time, people were really pissed. Like they thought it was a bait and switch. They put just like a white Mandarin. I mean, who basically was in cosplay. People were at that time too. So I agree with you. The unnecessary whitewashing of characters has spilled into even something that we really love and adore, like the MCU. So it does need to stop.
I agree, and I don't know how I forgot to mention it, but I thought it was too important to not go back to. So back to DC. Hold on. No, don't hold on. Sorry. So with DC, I have this feeling that I am forgetting characters. I am forgetting characters, I know for sure, and I've just actually thought of one for MCU. So at the end, if I think of anybody, I'll reiterate and bring them back up. So if you are listening, if you are watching and you know of DC characters, people of color that you want to shout out, please do so. We are on YouTube. You can listen to us anywhere you can find podcasts, maybe. Definitely Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I would love for people in the comments to spread the love around. But stepping outside of our comic realm, I promised Nate that we would step outside of that. We are going to talk a little bit about two other characters that Samuel Jackson is actually. So one of them is Frozone from The Incredibles. Frozone was another hilarious, well done character. I literally still quote. Yes, I still quote that. I quote that all the time. Where's my super suit? Yes. Oh, and when he says, "It's for the greater good," and she goes, "I am the greatest good." I quote that to my fiance sometimes. It's hilarious. But that's how cool Samuel Jackson is, because not only did he do Nick Fury, Frozone, but he was also Mace Windu in Star Wars, guys. And Mace Windu was one of the best Jedis in the Order. He also had an awesome purple lightsaber, the only purple lightsaber that we see in the show. Now,
and it was another one of those examples of with his lightsaber. It's one of those things where Samuel Jackson told George Lucas, where Samuel Jackson's just a badass. He was like, "Hey, I want a purple lightsaber," and George Lucas just said, "Okay."
Cool, purple lightsaber for you. Yeah. So I've heard that Austin has some feelings about Mace Windu. So I wanted to pass it off to Austin. What do you think? What are your thoughts on Mace Windu? And Nick Fury, remember who you're insulting, though. This is the Samuel L. Jackson.
This is true. I'm not insulting him. I'm insulting the character, not him. I've
Okay.
never insult Samuel Jackson. I feel like he's just gonna go Pulp Fiction on me. Say what? Say what again? Like, because that like
because he's definitely saying, listening too.
Yeah, exactly.
That impression needs work, by the way.
Yeah. But I don't like him because he's in Revenge of the Sith. He's always arrogant towards Anakin, and there's a point, a Reddit post where it's like Ki-Adi-Mundi, and just Ki-Adi-Mundi and Mace Windu were the downfall of the Jedi Order, because here, I'm gonna quickly find the Reddit point so you guys.
You want us to set? We'll shoot over. You want to shoot over to Mark? Mark, what do you think about Mace Windu?
So while Austin does his research, no, I mean, Windu is a character who is really interesting because more so than other Jedi, he kind of embraces a little bit more of an aggressive. He doesn't really embrace the dark side, but he embraces some dark side tendencies. He's more of an aggressive type of person, as opposed to the kind of monk-like status of most Jedi. See, the only other one who's really comparable to that, besides Anakin Skywalker for obvious reasons, would be Qui-Gon Jinn. So Windu was super talented duelist. He is more of a balance that you would look for, as opposed to the other Jedi. But unfortunately, much like the other Jedi, I mean, the fact that he, like the rest of them, had a Sith Lord all searching for just in front of his eyes for years, and he couldn't see it. I mean, they were all dumbasses. At the end of the day, they were all dumbasses. They were stupid, and they, like Austin said, they were arrogant, and they led to their own demise. But before that, I actually thought Mace Windu was one of the cooler of the Jedis, even though he did, like Austin said, I think he was almost kind of resentful toward Anakin Skywalker. They like Obi-Wan brings up like, oh, isn't he the chosen one? And Mace Windu with that typical Samuel L. Jackson face, like, so the prophecy says, like, he's like,
sure.
He is. I'm not convinced. Like, so they were all kind of resentful towards Anakin, and while he was probably destined to fail either way, if they had been a little bit more kind of kind and nurturing to him and gave a little bit, maybe they would have avoided their own
downfall with that. Yeah. They fed that beast for sure. Nate, do you watch Star Wars, or is that another you kind of avoid movies kind of thing?
I just haven't watched it.
Yeah, that's okay.
How have you not watched Star Wars?
All right, Austin.
A lot of people. I mean, Haley said before she doesn't like Star Wars movies, so
I just haven't watched it.
It's not,
Nate,
not everything is for everything.
Have you seen what?
Have you seen Top Gun?
Yeah. It was really, really.
Well, there you go. You got one
Mark
up on me,
can
Nate.
It was when I was like
Top Gun
5.
episode. I'm not gonna know what to say. So.
At least Nate's seen Top Gun. We got growth.
Yeah.
It was just when I was really young, so I don't remember any of it.
Oh, really?
That means
watched it though.
He's making a list right now, guys, of all the movies he needs to watch.
Yeah, totally.
So, Austin, do you research, find your Reddit thread?
So, as Mark was saying, and like agreeing with my point that like Mace Windu, if Mace took Anakin with him to the Chancellors, Anakin would never have come to Palpatine's rescue and saved Palpatine. Anakin would never returned. The Jedi Plague would never have happened. Luke would grow up with Dad, Luke and Leia, and everything would grow up with Padme being alive and stuff like that. There's a whole like thread of consequences that led to the downfall of the Jedi Order, and that was included in Mark's ignorance statement that all the Jedi were ignorant, specifically Ki-Adi-Mundi, and I'll go into detail. So this whole Reddit post is big. I can link it to you guys. Mark has seen it before.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about, Mark, right?
Yes.
It's like in episode 1, Qui-Gon was reporting to the Council of Darth Maul, and then Mundi was the first to deny that the Sith weren't like real, that he didn't believe they were back. And like just during the Clone Wars, like he always like said stuff like this. Like
the Jedi were a bunch of arrogant dumb fucks who didn't think that the Sith could possibly come back and overtake them. And unfortunately, Mace Windu was a huge factor in that.
Yes.
And also, like the one of the big prefaces of it was that Ki-Adi-Mundi was supposed to go originally was supposed to go to Kashyyyk with the Wookiees. That's why where the famous goes, what about the droid attacking the Wookiees? He was originally supposed to go there.
Yeah.
So if he went there, Yoda never would have. Yoda being Yoda, who is smart, would have taken Anakin. Yeah. And because obviously Mace didn't like Anakin or resented him because he was more powerful and stuff like that, didn't take Anakin, which led to his demise and the demise of his fellow brothers.
Yeah. So which is not to take. Go ahead.
That's one of like the big reasons why I love Mace Windu. Mace Windu in the Clone Wars I love.
Yeah.
And like
I thought you might say that.
In the Geonosis episodes, because when he's with Anakin, he's not brash like he is towards the end of the Clone Wars. Like in Revenge of the Sith, he's brash towards Anakin. And because obviously, and he didn't take the proper people with him. Like if he took better people, like Kit Fisto, I don't remember who the others, it wasn't Eve Koth because it was another of their.
I couldn't help you.
But like they just need better people. They needed better people. Yeah. So that's
and that's definitely not. Yeah. And that's definitely not to take away from Mace Windu, because I know he's known in the Jedi Order to be a very powerful Jedi user. Like Mark said, and like you talked about a little, he's a purist in a lot of ways, that he wants to keep things a little bit more strict. He has a lot of really intense feelings about things. And I'm glad you guys brought up the Clone Wars, because we're going to talk about the clone daddy himself, Jango Fett. Jango Fett, I'm not inundated enough with the Star Wars lore to know if Jango Fett's race ever changed, but Temuera Morrison, who played him in the original Star Wars movies and will continue to play Boba Fett in The Mandalorian, is Maori. So he is a person of color, and he has played that character throughout the shows. We also have, I'm blanking on his name. Help me, guys. Help me.
Well, D. Bradley Baker did him in.
Is that the voice actor? Was that the voice actor?
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about another character. Why can't I think of his name? I almost had it. Lando Calrissian?
Donald Glover.
Bounty Hunter. Yeah, Billy D. Williams.
Yes. So we have Lando Calrissian, another really, really great character in the show, who I love that he was able to come back and be in the newer movies too. I feel like he was a really good character in the newer movies, and it was refreshing to see someone else pulled in. And then, of course, now with The Mandalorian, we have Rosario Dawson playing Ahsoka. So we're bringing another, character, another person of color in to be able to diversify the Star Wars universe. Now, we are short on time.
Carlo Esposito, who showed at the end of Mandalorian Season 1. He had the Darksaber.
Yeah.
Nice. Guys, I'm watching the Avatar right now because I love that show. And when that is done, I'm going to start The Mandalorian so I can finally catch up on that. So we are running out of time, but I realized from my original research, I left out quite a few people. And we also forgot some big people, guys. How did we forget Cyborg?
Cyborg, John Stewart, Green Lantern.
Yes, exactly. John Stewart, who was
Connor Hawke.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe John Stewart was the first Black DC character.
I think he might have been.
I'm pretty sure he was the first Black.
I know
DC
he was.
character.
He was obviously in like the Justice League cartoon. He was the Green Lantern there because they didn't use Hal Jordan. John Diggle in Arrow, Connor Hawke in Arrow.
I know you're hoping that Diggle will be Green Lantern. I know you're holding out for that. So I don't know how we forgot. I don't know how we forgot Cyborg. Like, he's such and John Stewart too. He's a Green Lantern. Those are huge characters. we also have like Riri Williams, who is Ironheart. She is the newest iteration of Iron Man in the comics. We have Miss America, I believe is her name. Yes. We have
Indian.
Miss America.
America Chavez.
Yes, America Chavez, and I believe her superhero name is Miss America. She is actually part of the Young Avengers with Billy, who we talked about, with Wiccan and Speed, both of Scarlet Witch's children. She's part of that Young Avengers team. We have Camilla Khan, who is Miss Marvel, the newest version of Miss Marvel in the comics, and she's Pakistani American. That's a group of people of color that we haven't been able to mention yet. We have Moon Girl, who is Lunella Lafayette, who is the smartest character in the MCU. And she is, let me double check my information, she is 9 years old. 9 years old. Has outsmarted every single intelligent person in the MCU. So we have a lot of really, really cool characters.
And we also have like Dagger too, or Cloak.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's Dagger.
Oh yes. I got you. I know who you're talking about.
Another ill-fated TV show that
it's actually not bad. Like I watched a couple of like the episodes. It wasn't horrible, but also wasn't great.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot about that show. I'm not gonna lie, forgot about it a little bit.
It was one of those like because it was like. They were like, it's not a big enough show to put on like ABC, like the regular ABC.
Yeah, right.
So we're gonna put it on Freeform, which used to be ABC Family. I still don't get why they changed the name to that. They wanted to get like a better audience for like their shows.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares?
I think they were playing more adult themed stuff.
They think so, like a CW. They want to be like a CW like, sort of thing.
You have the name family attached to it. You're like, oh, this is for kids.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now when you hear like the 25 Days of Christmas thing, it just sounds weird. 25 Days of Christmas on Freeform. Like, what is that?
So funny. And one last shout out, another group of people of color that we actually haven't been able to talk about. We have Silk. She is a spider hero. She's called Silk, so she's not Spider Woman. She is not Spider Man, but she was bitten by the same radioactive spider that bit Peter Parker, and she is Korean American. So we see throughout not just DC and Marvel, but Star Wars and beyond. I know in anime there's representation of people of color. Again, I don't feel like it's always the best. I've seen a lot of people say that it's shown very stereotypically. As an anime lover, I hope that changes in the future. I hope that we get strong, accurately, fairly represented people of color, as well as people of the LGBTQ community, and both. But there's a lot for these places and these people to pull from and make amazing characters. And I think it's the time. It's always been the time. But with what's going on, guys, we can't, no one can sit here and deny that there are things that need to be fixed. And I hope that whoever you are watching this or listening, and wherever you are, that you are on a journey to being able to love yourself, being able to love other people as people, despite any of their differences from you. And with that, guys, we are wrapping things up. So you can find us again on YouTube at Pones Media. We have a channel. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We would love if you would like, subscribe, leave comments, come back and join us again. We're going to go around the room. I'm going to give everybody a chance to talk about their social media handles. And I would love it, guys, if you could also tell people where else they can find you through Pones Media. So, Mark has some big things he works on. The guys show up on all kinds of podcasts. So if you would just let people know where they can find you. Mark, would you go first?
Sure. So I can be found on twitter.com at Mark Piselli 13. That is PISELLI 13.
What does a 13 mean?
That comes out to 13.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Right. Someone's elementary school days just came flashing back.
And
Vietnam flashback.
You can find me. I'm the host of House of Hoops. where I pod with Vic, Abe, and Islam about basketball. We had an episode that's dropping. By the time you're listening to this, it will have already dropped. So if you haven't listened to it already, listen to it now.
Yes.
Not also do YouTube because most of the time my guys are usually phoning in from the car or like we got some guys with some schedules that we have to maneuver to get around. So it's the only one of the Pones podcasts that does not make it onto the YouTube page, but that just means you have to listen twice. And as mentioned before, we do have our ponesmedia.com website. We are trying to get content up on there every day. Right now it's just blogs, but eventually we want to get videos on there. We wanted maybe get like video blogs, some interactive content. So keep checking it out. It's a work in progress, but we're really excited about what we have on there so far.
Yes, awesome. So Nate, where can people find you?
Find me on Twitter. My name LS Nate.
Nice.
Usually, all right, bro. The ad I want is taken.
It's my name is Nate, but because someone else has that handle, Nate uses a lowercase L, and it looks like a capital I.
Yeah, no, it's sad. Find me on Interrupted. Usually on those. Yeah.
Those are fun to listen to, though. I've been on a couple, and they are entertaining.
It's not fun for me because I just get bullied, but.
I'm really sorry, Nate. That's not much of an over-exaggeration.
It's a loving bunch.
Definitely for you.
I mean, I get chill on too.
Like, so,
but
Nate,
for me, dude.
You're a gamer, right?
I am.
Awesome. So next week, guys, we're doing Xbox versus PS4. I'm hoping Nate can come back and join us and give us some awesome insight during that episode.
I do. I have a PlayStation now, but I did have an Xbox. So.
Ooh. A team switcher.
I had a PS2 and I had 360. So it's like,
see, it's kind of like that. Like that's what happens for like half of a UI episode. I'm so sorry, Nate. So, Austin, where can people find you? Oh, nope. Austin,
yep, what a perfect.
You back, buddy?
Start over.
Yeah, I'm good.
There you go.
Stupid internet. We're good.
Okay. So where can people find you?
You can find me on most of the podcasts. I'm Uninterrupted, similar with Nate and stuff like that. I've done like one blog post. One probably after this, or start working on it for like a little streaming thing. Obviously, it's towards the end of quarantine, but like you still can watch stuff.
Yeah, that's true. They still haven't disabled the continue watching on Netflix. Like, yes, Netflix, I am still watching Netflix.
Yeah, I got that like the other night. I'm like, it was like after 2 hours. I'm like, I usually
exactly.
Like 6. Like what?
I've been watching for 3 hours. Yes, I'm still here.
Yeah, like I fall asleep. Right. But yeah, but you can find me on Twitter at Austin _Whittle. Mm-hmm. And hopefully nobody reports me again. I found out reported me, but
I'm gonna mass report you.
What?
I'm just gonna mass report you. I'm gonna mass report you.
If you do that, I'll mass report you. Like
the report wars report.
Yeah, don't worry. I have an extra 2 accounts to get on my level.
I have like get on my level.
You just doxing yourself right now.
And then if you follow my backup, because I'll never get suspended, it's Austin. So it's my last name is spelled WHITZEL. People always think it's Ellie. No, it's EL. Whittle.
Whittle.
Yeah. Folks. Spell it right.
Yeah, right.
If you don't spell it right, you're not gonna get it.
Nobody. I'm gonna have you beat Austin in the spelling game.
Maybe I start an Austin Whittle parody account that's spelled more likes and tweets.
Mark just found his weekend project.
To be honest, you'll probably get better content than me.
So you guys are hilarious. I'm so glad you guys are on. So for me, again, I think I have you beat, Austin. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at It's Me Christian G. That's Christian with a K. Christian is also spelled Kristian, and maybe 1 out of every 8 million times people say my name, do they say it right? Like when the people at Starbucks go Christian, I'm like, oh, yay, good job.
How do they usually say it?
I get Kristen, Kirsten, Kirsten. Those are the normal ones. I get Kristen a lot, and I'm like, there's that's not how it's spelled. I'm always like if there's ever a name tag, it'll say, hi, my name is Christian, and in the bottom in parentheses I put like the religion, so that people know.
I'm just gonna start calling you like names close to your name.
Go for it. And I'll go, yeah, me? Does that mean, because my last name, it has also always been mispronounced. I'm not going to say my last name, but that's always been, right? No, I'm not trying to do that. So yeah, guys, so that's everybody. You know where to find us. I hope that you will come back for our next podcast. Like I said, we're doing gaming. I'm excited about it. I hope Nate can come back and join us. I hope the guys are excited about it. Yeah. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day, night, whatever it is, wherever you are. Everybody say bye.
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 Have a good time.